Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you, God, for the rain that we've received recently. I want you to know that we brought the rain with us because we traveled to West Texas to visit with my aunt and uncle, and they were under drought conditions, and it rained for 2 days straight while we were there. And then we traveled to Denver, and they were also close to being under drought conditions, and it rained for 2 days straight while we were there. So you're welcome. Although we just came from near the Panhandle where we stayed the past 2 days, and we saw both on the east and the west of us big storms, and I think you guys got a lot of rain here, but we didn't get any where we were at in the Panhandle, so it was kind of funny. Just as a reminder, we've been here before. My name is Scott Illey, and we know you, and hopefully you know us. Last time I was here, though, I think I had hair. I've since shaved my hair off to be like Daryl. But you all supported us to go to Bear Valley Bible Institute, and for that we want to say thank you, and we really appreciate you for all the support you've given us to do that. After we were going to go to Bear Valley Bible Institute, we had plans to go into the foreign mission field in Taiwan. And the last time we were here, we presented to you our plans to go to Taiwan. But we didn't realize at the time that maybe the Lord had different plans for us, because as you know, COVID shut down most of the rest of the world. And when we graduated, Taiwan was still closed down to international travel. So we had to reevaluate our plans and what we were going to do. We wanted to do mission work, but we didn't know exactly what that looked like. We went back home to the congregation that was going to oversee our work to go to Taiwan. They're in Atlanta. And we shared with them this idea of doing a different kind of mission work, where we would just be based here in the United States, but we would do online mission work to reach out to people throughout the world using digital tools. And we would have it translated in different languages. And they liked that plan, and they agreed to oversee us to do that work. And they offered us the parsonage to live in Woodstock, Georgia, and that's where we live now. And we presented this idea and this plan to the elders here at Waterloo Road when we planned to do that a little less than a year ago. And they have agreed to continue to support us in doing that mission work. And again, we want to say thank you for doing that and being a part of this mission work. That's what I'm going to tell you about this morning, is the mission work that we do and what our plans are, what our vision is, and what is the work that we are doing. As you can imagine, it's different than other kinds of mission work that you maybe hear about when people come. I guess someone came and spoke to you from Ghana last Sunday. And usually a missionary will tell you they're working in a particular area in another part of the world. This is very different in that we're working throughout the whole entire world, but based in one place. We have three things that we focus on in our mission work. It's kind of like our guiding principles when we think about the kind of work that we do. It's digital, global, evangelism. Most missionaries, they're located in a particular place, and they have interpersonal relationships with people in that particular region. But we are using digital tools in that we are engaging with people online through social media, through websites, through Zoom. I just recently gave a Bible class on the book of Revelation to a preaching school in India, and that was over Zoom. And we were able to communicate using these digital tools like we hadn't been able to in the past. We're focused on evangelism as well. Normally a missionary would be focused in a particular area, and they would also be working to build up the saints and work with the local Christians in that congregation to edify them and build them up. But we're focused on particularly on evangelism. If we can edify the saints while we do our work, that would be wonderful. But we are focused on seeking and saving the lost, trying to find those people that don't have access to the gospel and be able to give them the good news of Jesus Christ. Many of you know our family. We're the Illies. As I mentioned, I'm Scott, and my wife Alexis is here with me. Most of you met us before. We have our 3 kids. Scotty is our oldest, Samantha and Garrison. Scotty just turned 13 last week, so we now have a teenager in the home. And our youngest is Garrison, and he is 4. My wife is a stay-at-home mom, but she plays a very important role in this mission work in that she takes care of the house, and she takes care of the children. She teaches the children, and she plays a very important role as a stay-at-home mother that allows me to focus on preaching the gospel full-time. And with her being a stay-at-home mom, we're able to travel and go on mission trips occasionally and come out like we're here with you now and still be able to homeschool the kids while we're on the road. A little bit about me. I want to tell you a little bit about my background. I may have done it before, but it's particularly important when we talk about the kind of work we're doing. I came from a secular career in global marketing. I worked at the corporate headquarters of UPS in Atlanta, Georgia, and I was also deacon of foreign missions at my congregation in Atlanta, Georgia. And through doing that mission work as the deacon of foreign missions, we became more and more passionate as a family for doing mission work. And that's why one day, well, it didn't happen in one day, but over the course of time, we decided that we should leave our secular work and go into mission work full time. And that's how we made the decision that we would go to Taiwan and study at Bear Valley first. But my experience was in, as I mentioned, global marketing. And my responsibility was to oversee the UPS's digital platform for all international countries. So anybody engaging with UPS online through our digital platform, I was responsible for translating our material, coordinating with different countries, and driving engagement through our online platform using marketing tools. That was my full-time job. So when Taiwan didn't open up for us, I thought, how can I use these skills that I've acquired in my work experience to be able to apply those in the work of mission work and ministry? And that was partly what informed what we're doing right now. We also have a team that are helping us throughout the whole entire world. We have people in Ireland, Israel, Mongolia, Philippines, India. We have a young lady at our home congregation in Woodstock, Georgia, for example, who proofreads all of our Bible lessons. She has an English minor, and she volunteers that time so that she can proofread our material. We have people who contribute writings to our mission work. But I want you to know that this is a team effort, and there are many, many people throughout the world that are helping us with lessons and translations and promoting our content to the various preachers in different countries throughout the world. And we're thankful to all those people that are helping us. The Great Commission, Mark's version in Mark chapter 16 and verse 15, there's something important I want to point out about this. Jesus said, go into all the world and preach the gospel to all of creation. Now, in the original language, there's something that's interesting here because there's a unique word for the word all. It's not the typical word for all. It's very emphatic. So Jesus is being emphatic when he says, go into all the world. It's like you're underlining the word all. And then he says, go preach the gospel to all of creation. Why does he say, go preach the gospel to all of creation instead of all of mankind? Again, it's because he's being emphatic. Jesus is emphasizing that he wants us to go absolutely everywhere and preach the gospel to absolutely everybody. Well, of course, we know how that was fulfilled in the first century. In Acts chapter 2, the apostles were endowed with powerful work of the Holy Spirit, and they were able to speak the gospel to other people in their own native language. Notice that it says that people were amazed and astonished. They said, aren't these just Galilean fishermen? How do we hear them speaking in our own language to which we were born? Notice that was the will of the Holy Spirit, that the gospel would go into all the world and be preached to people in their native tongue. It wasn't spoken to people just in Greek. That was the universal language of the time. It wasn't spoken to people in Latin, which was also sort of a universal language of the time, or Hebrew or Aramaic. It was the will of the Holy Spirit that the gospel be preached in people's own native language. Now, why is that important, that it be preached in someone's native language? Well, many of you have traveled throughout other parts of the world. I just recently got back from India. And in India, English is an official language. That is, that most school children, when they grow up, they learn a little bit of English. Just like maybe perhaps some of you learned a little bit of Spanish. However, when you talk to the average person on the street in India, they don't understand much English at all. In fact, when you go further outside of the major cities, people don't speak any English. So you cannot study the Bible with someone in India in English, even though it is a very popular language. Hindi is the official language of India. Every school child, when they're young, learns Hindi. And if you're traveling to other parts of India, you were born in one part, you travel to another, you may converse with somebody in a little bit of Hindi. However, when you get into other parts of India outside of the north, the average person cannot have a fluid conversation in Hindi, much less study the Bible in Hindi, even though it's the official language of India. That is because in India, there are over 24 native languages. So you were born speaking a particular language, and there are 24 of them just in the country of India alone. So knowing a native language is important for preaching the gospel. In the world today, there are about 8 billion people. And did you know that only 10% of those 8 billion people speak English or Spanish as their native language? Those two languages that are so important for us in our time and culture, only 10% of the world will speak it as their native language. Another 3.5 billion people in the world speak the next 30 most popular languages. Think Chinese, Russian. Those are the next most popular languages that people would speak as their native language, and only 3.5 billion people speak those 30-some languages. How about the rest of the 4 billion people on earth today? They speak 7,000 different native languages. So when we think about going into all the world and fulfilling Jesus' great commission of preaching the gospel to absolutely everybody, and if we're interested in doing it like it was done in the first century, then we should have some interest in trying to preach to people in some of these more native languages that we see in the world today. Another challenge is, I mentioned India, and you go to a place like India today. I think that froze up, it's a video. I just went on a mission trip in India in January, and there's another challenge that we're faced with when we're talking about preaching the gospel to the whole entire world. It is illegal in India to evangelize. That means that you cannot share the gospel of Jesus with other people. Some parts of India, like in the south, they call that the Bible Belt. It's still illegal, but you could get by preaching the gospel sometimes. I was able to preach regularly there. When you preach the gospel in the north, however, you may face the penalty of imprisonment or even death, because it is illegal to preach the gospel in a place like India. Now, when we were there, I visited with a preacher from Woodstock Church of Christ, and we preached all day, every day. We preached seminars during the day where we would preach in front of 75 to 150 preachers, and we would talk to them about the distinctiveness of the New Testament church and the observations the things that we observed in the Church of Christ versus other denominations. And then we would go every night, this preacher and I, we would go to different villages. He would go to 2 or 3 villages, and I would go to 2 or 3 villages, and we would have gospel meetings. And we would preach the gospel every night, sometimes in front of other denominations, sometimes in front of the church, sometimes in front of Hindus. And those would entail anywhere from 10 to 50 people in each one of those meetings. So 4 to 6 meetings every night with that many people in different villages. And we preached the gospel nonstop while we're there. Now the brothers there, they do a lot of work in preaching and teaching, obviously, before we get there. And they do a lot of work preaching and teaching and following up after we leave. But we were told as a result of our time there in India, we were able to convert or baptize 250 people to the Church of Christ. Now that was not us baptizing, but that was as a result of the work, collective effort that we did while we were there. And as encouraging as that is, and as happy as that made us, and as joyful as that is, I'm still most motivated by the fact that there are still 1.1 billion Hindus in the country of India that are worshiping dead idols, that are washing in dirty, filthy water because they think it makes them clean, who know absolutely nothing about Jesus. When you talk to the average person on the street, they don't know anything about Jesus. Nothing. And that's what motivates me the most. But we're in a country that is challenged, even for the local preachers that are there, even for the local Christians, they are challenged to share the gospel with those 1.1 billion Hindus. Because one, it's illegal, and two, you have the difficulties of persecution. So what are we going to do to preach the gospel in a place like India and fulfill the Great Commission of Jesus? I want to talk to you a little bit about Mongolia. My family and I, we visited Mongolia for 1 month last year. We met, while we were at Bear Valley, the preacher of Mongolia. And that's right, I said the preacher, as in the singular preacher in all the country of Mongolia. This is a country about the size of 2.5 Texases, and there's only one Church of Christ preacher in the whole country. We met him at Bear Valley, so we went to go visit him after we graduated, and to encourage his family to work with the church. I did apologetic seminars where I worked with the local church, and they brought their friends and family to teach them about why we believe there is a creator, why we believe Jesus is the Son of God, why we believe the scriptures are inspired. These may be very basic lessons to us, but the church there is very young, and they face a lot of skepticism when speaking with their neighbors and their friends. So these kind of apologetic seminars were very helpful for the local church. I also taught daily evangelism lessons to the local church because they didn't have a concept of evangelism. It's kind of countercultural to them and against the grain there to be able to invite other people into church and to teach them. So we emphasized evangelism every day while we were there. Also, my wife and I, we did marriage counseling. We did one-on-one evangelism studying with non-Christians. But the interesting thing about Mongolia is it is a country that is predominantly Buddhist. They call themselves Buddhists, however, in practice, they're Buddhist by tradition, but in practice, with what they believe, they're essentially atheists. They don't really believe in God. They don't really believe in a creator because they were under communist influence for so long. But if you walk the streets in Mongolia, you wouldn't be able to see a church building. We saw one church building in our whole time that we were there, and it was a Presbyterian church building. But other than that, you do not see a church building. And when you talk to a normal person out on the street again, they don't know anything about Jesus. The most common question that we got when we talked with someone was Jesus really a real historical person? They had never even considered the fact that Jesus was actually a real person in history, let alone that he was the Son of God. So many of our lessons started in saying, yes, he's not a myth. He is a real person. We have all this historical evidence that shows he was a real person. And so the average person there doesn't know about Jesus, doesn't know anything about Christianity or the church, just like you probably don't know anything about Buddhism. And there aren't any churches there that people can walk into to be able to find out the truth. So I want you to put yourself in their shoes. If you were someone that was searching for the truth, you were raised an atheist, Buddhist by tradition, and you knew that there wasn't something right about that, but maybe you needed to go find the truth. Where are you going to go? Who are you going to ask about Christianity? You can't ask your neighbor. You don't have any neighbors that are Christians. You can't walk into a church building and start asking questions like my wife and I did when we were searching for truth. We went to all these different denominational churches until we eventually found the one that was teaching the truth. How are you going to find the truth in a place like Mongolia? That is the challenge that we're faced with today. The answers to these questions is the way that we're going to be able to preach the gospel in a place like India, where there's heavy persecution and where it's illegal to evangelize. The way we're going to be able to preach the gospel in a place like Mongolia is through digital devices. Digital devices is a way that we can reach at almost every single soul in every part of the world today. When you go to a place like India that's much poorer than we are, you may not realize it. But in a place like India, nearly everybody has a smart device. I'm talking about young teenage children, and I'm talking about elderly couples as well. And they each have well-connected internet. And throughout the whole country of India, we never once lost high-speed internet. As we were traveling throughout the west of the United States, we dropped internet reception several times. But never once in all the remote parts of India we've been to did we lose fast, high-speed internet connection. I have a missionary friend who works deep in the jungles of Cambodia. And he told me, he said, Scott, even deep in the jungles of Cambodia, I see young children who are poor, who can hardly afford food. They have smart devices that are connected to the internet. And this is a way today that we learn new things. When you go to learn something new, where do you go today? If you are going to learn how to do something new on your car, you might go to YouTube. If you, ladies, you are looking for a new recipe, you may go to Instagram or Pinterest. The internet is where we go to learn new things today. So how do you think those people in India or Mongolia might be searching for answers? Where are they going? They're going to the internet. Will they be able to find the answers that they're looking for? Will they be able to find the answers they're looking for in their own native language? Will they be able to find the answers they're looking for in their own native language that will point them to a local Church of Christ, to a congregation that is teaching the truth? That's our vision in doing this mission work, is we want to be able to provide a platform where anyone, anywhere in the world who is searching for the truth can find an answer online in their own native language that will teach them the truth and point them to a local Church of Christ where they can gain fellowship in the Lord's body. This vision is not to replace the local work of an evangelist or a missionary. It is meant to be a tool for the local evangelist, the local Christian, or the local missionary, where they can preach the gospel like they normally do. But they can use this as a tool to connect with more people that they had difficulty connecting with in the past. And if you stumble across the truth as part of your search for truth, we never envisioned that someone would just learn the truth and obey it in a vacuum. Obviously, when we obey the gospel, we need to go somewhere and be baptized by another Christian, and we need to gain fellowship into a local church. So our vision is not to be self-sustaining as a web platform on its own, but to be able to point someone to the truth, to show them that the Bible has the answers they're looking for, and to point them to a local Christian who will continue to study with them and help them grow as disciples. I'm going to keep going backwards before I go forwards. I probably made all that sound very complicated, but it's actually quite simple. This is our website, our main website, logosanswers.org. Logos is the Greek word for the Word. In the beginning was the Word. So Jesus was in the beginning. He has the answers that we're looking for. The Word of God, the Bible, has the answers that we're looking for. So thus, that's where we get the name, logosanswers.org. And you can go to the website. You can go there now. There are only 3 things. We try to keep it very simple. There are only 3 things you can do on the website. The first is you can ask a Bible question or a question about Christianity or Jesus or God. The second thing you can do is read an article. And the third thing you can do is watch a video. We want people to ask questions. This is where you would go in to ask questions. We want to find and engage with those people who are searching for the truth. So we have an avenue for which someone could go on and discreetly ask a question. Ask a question they may be ashamed in a predominantly Hindu or a predominantly Buddhist culture to ask somebody. They can go on in private and ask a question and be able to expect a response. If someone provides an email address, then we would love that, and we can correspond with them. In fact, this is something you can use here in America, in Oklahoma, where you're at. If you're studying with somebody and you want to give them an avenue, I'm sure you have avenues here. You could do the same thing with the elders and Daryl. I'm sure they do a good job of answering questions, but this is another way that people could go on and discreetly ask a Bible question. We've tried to write articles that are made to discuss the basics of the faith, basics of who Jesus is, and who God is, and what we need to do to be right with God. We try to avoid any presumed previous knowledge of the Bible or of Christianity, because a lot of these articles are being read by people, like I said, who had absolutely no knowledge. So a lot of the stuff that we may interact with sometimes as Christians presumes that you already know something. Well, if you're talking to someone who doesn't know that Jesus was a real person, you have to backtrack and start with even fewer assumptions. You can keep things even more basic and simple. And that's what we try to do. These articles may not be something that's helpful for building your faith because you know so much already. Maybe they will be. But generally, they're for people who are beginning their search for the truth. And we provide videos on the website. Videos are the most engaging form of content. So we can post an article and have maybe a couple dozen people view it. But we can post a short video and have thousands of people view it. Now, it may not be as deep of a connection or engagement. People may not be as deeply engaged in a video as they are in an article, but you get a lot more. So we want to provide both articles and videos as a way to engage with different people. Now, I'm going to show you a sample of a video that we produced, and that will allow you to see what we're doing and how we're executing on this. I'm told we don't have sound. The video has sound, but what I'm going to try to do is put a microphone close to it. Maybe you can hear it. But I think the more important thing is that you see it, what's going on. So let's see if we can. I already had one video and it didn't play, so I'm not positive this will work. Okay. If I go to YouTube, can I go to YouTube or my website?
Definitely maybe.
All right, let's try that. We go to logosanswers.org.
Or maybe not.
All right, we may need to just talk through it. Okay. Let's just talk through it. So what we do is we'll produce a video in English, and it'll have certain graphics, and you'll be able to see everything from the eyes of an American culture. But then we take the same video and we adapt it into other languages. So what the demo video was showing you is we have a video that we produced in English, and we produced the same video in Arabic, and we produced the same video in Tagalog, which is the language of the Philippines. We are in the process of producing the same video in Khmer, which is the language of Cambodia. And what we're able to do is we're able to quickly reproduce English content in these other native languages. We changed the audio, we changed the visuals. There is a narrator that is narrating the lesson.
Everyone is searching for something.
Got it right.
Yeah, it may be more challenging to go back and forth. I want to encourage you to go to the website and go to the YouTube page and all that. You can see it for yourself. You go to logosanswers.org/MN for Mongolian. Then you would see everything. It looks pretty much the same as the English website, except it's all in Mongolian. And the video, we reproduced a video that we had produced in English. We reproduced it in Mongolian with all Mongolian people. And we were able to do that using technology. And in the English video, you had two people talking in a coffee shop, American people. And in the Mongolian video, you had two Mongolians speaking in a Mongolian coffee shop, speaking the Mongolian language. And we're able to use technology to quickly reproduce these videos in other languages.
There's a Firefox logo.
Oh,
Which might work for you. I couldn't see it.
Thank you.
It's easy.
That's not my video. Okay, we won't do that. So we try to produce content in other languages so that anyone who's viewing the content in another place in the world, so let's say you're an Arabic speaker and you come across the website and you're viewing this content, we want you to believe and feel like it was produced by another Arabic speaker. So everything is Arabic. A lot of times, using other video methods, to reproduce something in other languages, you would overdub it. Have you ever seen some of the cheesy kung fu movies? You know, a lot of times that's the cheapest and most efficient way to probably reproduce something. When I produced an Arabic video, well, the English video I produced was 7 minutes long. I produced the exact same video translated in Arabic, and it's 9 minutes long. So when something's overdubbed, they change the length of it, change the content to be able to fit the English video. Well, we don't have to do that. We translate everything into Arabic, and the voice is in Arabic, and everything looks and feels Arabic. We're able to do that using animation. So far, we've completed translations in Arabic, Tagalog, which is language of the Philippines, and Mongolian. And we're really close to being able to put up our website in Khmer, which is the language of Cambodia. And we've started translating Telugu, which is one of the fastest growing languages in India. In fact, it's the fastest growing language here in America for the past 5 years, Telugu. So hopefully by the end of the year, we also have websites up in Telugu, Hindi, and Canada, 3 major languages of India. And we have, hopefully, we'll have a site up in Chinese and probably very soon Spanish. So as you can see, we're on the path, and we have it as a goal to be able to develop content in as many languages as possible, as quickly as possible, and do it in a way where people believe and feel like they are being spoken to by someone in their own culture and in their own language, and that it connects them with somebody close to them that will be able to share the gospel with them. This just shows us the power, the influence of social media. When you have a small little congregation like you do in Mongolia, and there are only 15, 20 people, you feel like you're alone. And it's not common to have conversations about Christianity out in the world, even less so than it is for us. People feel like they have a hard time reaching out to their friends and their neighbors, and their circle of influence is very small. But when we think about using internet tools like search engine and social media, and think about the number of people that the church in Mongolia can use, it doesn't have to be through our platform, it's just showing you the power of using digital media, these digital tools to be able to get the gospel out. They can reach so many more people. And this may seem pretty obvious to you, pretty standard for us here in America. Daryl said there were 1,000 views on last week's cast. It's pretty standard here, right? But in Mongolia, they don't have anything like this. They don't have dozens of churches doing live streams every Sunday. There are no other ministries in the Church of Christ that I'm aware of that is translating anything into Mongolian. There is very few even denominational resources where someone could go online and learn about the truth in Mongolian. This is very unique in that we were able to get a site up in Mongolia. There's nothing else in the Church of Christ that is doing it, and very few even in the denominational world that is teaching about God and the Bible in Mongolia. I want you to know that you guys have helped us to get this far. You guys have helped us to be able to get the gospel in a place like Mongolia, in a place like the Arabic-speaking world. In the Arabic-speaking world, we didn't talk as much about that, but it is illegal again to have a Bible, to even own a Bible. In most Arabic-speaking countries, you would be under the penalty of death. But through your help, we have been able to put up a website where people can go and study the Bible in their native language of Arabic, in places where they cannot find Christians, they cannot find the church. So I want you to know, and I want you to be proud of this work that you've helped us to do. And I know you guys are very active in foreign missions throughout the world and do many great things, important things throughout the world. And I thank you for that, but hopefully you can also be proud of this work too that we are doing in preaching the gospel online. And we're thankful for the support you've given us to get this far. And we want to ask you to continue to support us in doing this mission effort. People ask us what are our immediate priorities. These are the 3 immediate priorities that we have. We want to be able to deploy Indian-speaking websites by the end of the year because I plan to go back to India in January. And I want to be able to take these resources to the preachers there and show them all this great content they now have in their language and they can share with other people and be able to promote it that way. The second thing we want to do is we want to continue to develop and promote the Arabic website. The Arabic website, like I said, has already been launched, but there are ongoing costs to translating new material. And one of the keys to building social media traction is to have consistent stream of material every week, every month. And we want to be able to do that starting in the Arabic-speaking language. And over time, you gain more and more traction. The third priority that we have for this year is I plan to go on a trip to Cambodia and Taiwan, possibly as part of the same trip. In Cambodia, like I said, we'll have the combined website launched, and I'll be able to share that with the local preachers in Cambodia and say, hey, here's all this great content that you now have available to you in your native language. Go and share that with other people. And then as part of the same trip, hopefully I can go to Taiwan and work with the church there. They are in desperate need of help, but also we'll be able to make contacts and to be able to translate the material into Chinese as well. As I mentioned, our home base is in Woodstock Church of Christ in Atlanta, Georgia. They collect and receive all funds on our behalf. We also accept contributions on PayPal at Italy Crew Missions. But I would like each of you to choose your site of choice. We're on, we have the website, we have YouTube, Facebook, Instagram. Choose your site of choice and go on and please subscribe to our website. Because what that will do is anytime we release a new video or a new article, you will be notified about it and you will be able to read it and share it with other people. And that's what we want more than anything, is for you to be able to share the good news of Jesus and the church with other people. And there are many tools that you have to be able to do that. We hope that this would be of some help and use to you. But please follow us. If you would like to, I send the congregation here monthly newsletters. If you would like to be on that distribution list, I'm sure you all share that anyways, probably. But if you would like to be on that personal distribution list, send me an email or let me know, and I'll add you to the distribution list. And again, thank you so much for your support and the opportunity to come here and tell you about it. I'm sorry about the technical difficulties that I wasn't able to show you more, but you can go on the website and you can go to another language site and see for yourself how we adapt these into other languages. So thank you.